Hey, it's Clint Baker. Welcome back to Hillbilly, Hippie, Honeybees. And it is such a glorious evening. So I've been out checking some of the bees, some of the splits that we did with the double screen board. And let me tell you a story. So the ones that down at the teaching yard, those were the ones I checked. And so I thought all I want to do is check and see if the queen is in there, right? And so the first one I opened up, 2 frames in, there she was, a nice black queen. I mean, she is as dark as charcoal. And then the second one, I thought, you know what? I'm going to, hopefully I'd see her real quick. I took, and this is why it's so important to check the bottoms of your inner lids whenever you do your checks. I opened that up, and I was looking at the bottom lid, and I literally looked through the hole in the middle of the inner lid, and she was crawling across the top of a top frame. So that's a big reason why we tell you to always check that inner cover, because she could have crawled up there and I could have laid it down, crushed her, and killed her. But she was a beautiful queen too. Neither one of them looked mated yet. So then I went across and I started hearing the piping that I put at the beginning of this video for y'all to hear and listen to. And I just thought, man, I want to find her real quick. So 2 frames in, there she was, piping away. And as you saw in the beginning of the video. So, but by the time I got home, a friend of mine called me and said, hey, you know, what should I be doing this time of the year? And so that got me to think, you know what, maybe we should do a little video and talk about 5 things that you really need to be paying attention to in late April. So put this on your checklist and let's talk about them here. 1, you want to check for swarm signs. Like a few days ago, I went out in this yard right behind me here, behind my house, and I got in one of the hives that is very prone to swarming. And I kid you not, I said it in one of my other videos, I wished I would have had the camera out, because every frame in the bottom brood chamber had at least 2 or 3 swarm cells on it. So you really want to be checking for swarm cells. You want to be doing swarm control right now. You don't just want to let them swarm on their own. Why is that? You lose a lot of honey that way if that's what you're wanting to sell. So you don't want to do that. So our suggestion would be, and this is what we do, about every 7 to 10 days we get in and we start looking for the swarm cells. A lot of times that's all we're looking for when we get into them this time of year. That and some of the other things we're getting ready to talk about coming up. Also, you just want to continue every 7 to 10 days to check early and often for those swarm cells. And if you start seeing supersedure cells, you know, sometimes we will just let them leave the supersedure cells in that particular, in the mother colony, and let them do their thing naturally. And then we will pull the swarm cells out as well. All right, so number 2, make more space. One of the things that causes a lot of swarms is there's not a lot of space in there, and they're when it gets too crowded, what they do is they start thinking, all right, bees do 2 things great. They make honey really good, and they make a lot of bees really good. So that's when they start communicating, and that's when they start doing their thinking about, are we going to swarm or not? And then they start taking their vote, and the scout bees go out, and so forth and so on. So things that you can do, you can add more room if you need it. How can you do that? So you can add another deep on top if you've only got one. Sorry about that. If you've only got one brood box, you can add another brood box in there real quick and checkerboard it, and she'll come up into it. Sometimes we've taken like the outside honey frames out and replaced them, you know, scooted those over and replaced them with a couple empties, pulled empty comb, or even put those back in. You can take those if you've got a hive that's light on food and you think, oh man, they're not pulling in enough nectar. You could even take those and swap them out. You know, they're interchangeable. So swap those out for one that maybe is a little light on honey stores. Okay, let's see. Number 3, split your strong colonies. Like we have talked about in previous videos this year, and some coming up on the check-ins on the double screen board. Do your splits. You don't have to use a double screen board. Double screen boards are easy, but you know, like the splits I did out back here, I literally saw that they had queen cells on them. I stuck them over in a 5-frame nuke. I gave them a frame of another frame of brood, frame of food, and a couple blanks in there, or a couple pulled in there, and let them go about their business. Okay. And the frame of brood, you want to be pretty packed out, so that when those hatch out, it is about the time whenever she should be hatched, and hopefully mating flight. The bad weather that we were supposed to have here lately, we thought was going to hurt us a little bit on that, but it didn't. So split those strong colonies. That's easy swarm control right there. And you're growing, right? You're growing your bee yards. You're growing, maybe you're wanting to go more sideliner or more into the commercial side of things, and that's a good way of doing it. That is good genetics that you possibly have already there in your bee yard. All right. Hey, there's this clip back. I want to break in for a minute, and I want to ask you to please subscribe and like our channel. We are so very close to hitting some of our goals and subscribers, and if you would do that, it would be so great. Maybe invite a friend or two to it as well, so that we can continue bringing you this content. All right, if you got any questions or anything that you would like for us to cover, please leave them below. God bless y'all. Number 4, watch for feeding patterns. What I mean by that, so this time last year, we had a really big flow here in West Virginia of autumn olive, and it was a really big flow, like we were throwing honey supers on, it seemed like every day. This year, frost hit it. We don't have that anymore, so you really got to be paying attention to that type of stuff. You know, what's going on? Do you have a flow when you were supposed to have a flow, or did maybe a frost hit it? Maybe did it get cold? Maybe did the rain hit it and wash it out? So you really got to be looking at those things as well, and paying attention, taking notes, note down everything, then that we can refer to them years to come. All right, so number five is test for Varroa. All right, don't just use your eyes. You use a good test kit. You know, the alcohol wash works very well. Test them. If you are, you know, above that, we say 3%, but I think we're lower than that to 2% after our loss that we took this past year. Not that we think that had anything to do with it, but we just think better safe than sorry, right? But use a good like alcohol wash system and check them. And then if they are above that 2 to 3%, treat them. You know, you don't have to go hard at it. Oxalic acid. We've got actually a newer treatment that was gifted to me by a friend that we're going to try out in an upcoming video. We're going to do a little bit of experimenting with that. He came down from around Michigan and brought it with him, and we had dinner, and he said, "Here you go, my friend." So when we get that out and experiment with it, we will let you follow along on that experiment. But again, use the real mite treatment. Don't rely on visual checks, you know, and then treat as needed. You know, if you've got 2 or 3 colonies that are at that 2% mark, and you feel like, hey, I don't want to treat them, don't treat them. You know, this is one of those things that gets a lot of people in a lot of arguments, right? And, you know, the old saying goes, for every, 13 beekeepers that you have, if you ask that one question, you're gonna get about 20 different answers, and that's okay. It's okay to get those 20 different answers. Use the one that works best for you, all right? Not everybody, best way to say this is every hive out there is a little bit different, right? Every colony is a little bit different. And I don't know that you can actually do the same thing for each colony and get by with it. But, again, that's my opinion, David's opinion. varies a little bit off that, but it's okay. You know, a lot of times we'll bounce things off each other, and what do you think it's right for this one, or I don't know, maybe we shouldn't this one, let's just try, you know, or whatever. So, you know, it's okay to have differences of opinions in beekeeping. I almost rank beekeeping up there with politics and religion. Sometimes you just don't want to get into that discussion, but anyway. So, but those are the 5 things that in late April I would be really considered looking at. You know, it is very important that you do these things and you stay on top of them in the spring. And then, you know, if you have a lot of swarm calls like we're getting right now in the state of West Virginia in our area, you know, get out there and get those swarms, pick them up. Those are probably some pretty good genetics that you can introduce into some of your bee yards. So, but well, I hope that helps you. Even if it doesn't, please like and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you on the next round. God bless.